Hi, everybody, and welcome to Chapter 10. In Chapter 10, we are going to go over leadership and ethics. So, in order to maintain any sort of security response, there always has to be good leadership and ethics. So, I want to read you the following quote because it is a characteristic of good leadership. And a leader is a motivator, a coach, a disciplinarian, a mentor, an encourager, a restrainer, a teacher, evaluator, a team builder, and a role model. A good leader provides all these resources, coaching and training and information needed for everybody to successfully execute their job responsibilities. And there's nothing in the workplace than having expectations that can't be met because you're not provided with good leadership and all of the elements that I just mentioned. So there's different kinds of leadership. And this is going to depend on different types of leadership, and different types of management are going to be determined based on, in part, the person in the position, their personality, what they prefer, but also the nature of the organization and the culture of the organization and the nature of the circumstance at hand. So first is situational leadership, and this is providing the support and the direction that workers need to execute their job responsibilities. Transformational leadership treats employees and the organization as its most valuable asset. It's employee centered, and it looks to enable employees to make the best possible contribution to the organization overall. Autocratic leadership are managers who make decisions without input from the workers in the organization, and they have very little concern for their subordinates. They just shoot from the hip. They do what they think is best. Democratic managers, on the other hand, focus heavily on their subordinates and their subordinates' perspectives. They want to know what line workers are struggling with, how the job is taking a toll physically and mentally, etc. They're much more employee-centric in the decision-making process. There's also laissez-faire leadership, and this leadership stays out of the process and just allows the organization to run unimpeded. This is the view that employees are adults and they're more functional with a hands-off perspective, which is the opposite of micromanagement, which we're going to talk about in a short while. There are different types of management, and management, of course, the overall goal of any type of management is to direct and control by using resources to meet organizational goals. The first kind of management that we're going to cover is management by objective. This is where both management and subordinates set goals together and track performance to see if those goals are being met. There's participation from everyone at all levels, and there's agreement on goals and ownership of developing those goals. The next is total quality management, which systematically identifies defects in the process of achieving those organizational goals. It analyzes the causes of those defects. It creates plans of action to correct those causes, and then it evaluates the success level of those corrections to see if they meet the desired outcome of the organizational goals. Finally, there's micromanagement. Don't do this. Everyone hates it. No one likes micromanagement except the person who is micromanaging. Micromanagement is providing oversight with excessive control and attention over details that are the operational personnel's responsibility. So basically, it's the manager getting into everybody's job and saying, do it this way, do it that way, and constantly looking over their shoulder, when in fact, that's personnel's job. You need to step back and let them do their jobs. Everybody hates micromanagement. It actually has the opposite of the desired impact. You know, the impact is for people to perform well, but when people are micromanaged, they feel oppressed, they feel suffocated, they get unhappy in the workplace, and their production actually decreases. All leaders and all managers must, and all forms of management must make decisions, and there are different kinds of decisions. So first are executive level decisions, and this is going to focus on increasing safety and decreasing harm. Decision making at all levels is going to be influenced by things like organizational policy, different managerial styles, the level of experience that the decision maker brings to their position, and individual skill sets. There's three different decisions that are regularly used in security, and they're going to be dictated by circumstance. So first are going to be command decisions. And these are decisions that are made with little to no input from other people. There's consultative decisions, which is where the decision maker will gather input from everyone, from lots of people and opinions. And after they gather all of those opinions and input, they will make a decision on the totality of that information. There's also consensus decisions, and these are joint decisions made by a group or a committee. And finally, there's emotional intelligence, and this drives decision making. I like to refer to this, or my husband likes to refer to this as read the room. The ability to recognize and manage your emotions and to recognize emotions and emotional reactions in other people in order to make decisions in the moment about, is this working, is this not working, is it not landing well, or is this stressing people out, is this making people angry, or is this landing really well and people are really responding to it. um, Having emotional intelligence allows you to recognize problems before they become exacerbated. This is exercised through things like strong impulse control, not responding to aggression when faced with aggression. Don't be easily baited, and seeking a solution that is best for everybody in order to calm tempers and to diffuse escalating circumstances. Emotional intelligence is something that some people are born with. Some people are just naturally really good at it, and other people not so much. For those people that it's not a natural talent, there is a learning curve there, but there is some learning that can be done. There's also intuitive decision making. And what is intuition? Intuition is insight that is based on our subconscious. This is knowing without relying on the thought process. Sometimes people feel like that intuition or intuitive decision making, you just sort of followed your gut, and you do because it's not something where you mull over the you don't have a thought process. You don't mull over the details. But your brain is actually incorporating those, and you're making a decision before you get the mental cognitive time to break it down step by step. Um, Often people refer to this as a sixth sense or a gut feeling. Our bodies react and we make a decision before our brain actually has the time to cognitively process it. So it is incorporating all of your experience and your knowledge and everything else. It's not luck, right? It is based on something. But intuitive decisions happen very quickly and often land very well. There's also snap decisions, which are immediate and decisive. These don't always turn out well, but decisive is always better than indecisive. You don't want to get arrested by indecision and then not do anything because you're not sure, or you're weighing this issue and weighing that issue, and you're going back and forth, and you stay in the same spot because there's no forward movement because you just can't pull the trigger on a decision. There's delegation, which is tasking a subordinate with making the decision. There's not deciding, is that's a form of decision making. Is I'm not making a decision. This can be creative procrastination or kicking the can. That this isn't something that needs to be determined immediately. So let's kick the can, and when we catch up to the can, we'll make the decision then. That's a form of decision making. Technology-driven decision making is making decisions with the aid of technological input. Um, whether it's software, whether it's data, etc. There's participatory decision making, and that's all people in the organization are given a say in the decision making process. Each person comes with a different set of skills, experiences, and backgrounds, all of which are beneficial to the decision making process. This provides innovation. It provides the greatest number of ideas. It results in debates that flesh out the strengths and the weaknesses of all proposals in the decision making process. It argues the value of those decisions before they are actually made. But this can be a difficult process when you can't obtain consensus. Obtaining consensus is very, very difficult in groups, even small groups. It's very hard to get people to agree. Which leads us to, sort of one of our final, threat to decision making, and that's going to be groupthink. And groupthink threatens the outcome of successful participatory decision making, where let's say, we have a group of people and the bulk of the group think that we should go with decision A, and one person over here thinks that we should go with decision B. Well, that one person with decision B is going to feel pressured by the group, being the outlier, being the only voice. So they drop plan B because that's what groupthink is. They want to be a part of the group and they start thinking like the group. It doesn't mean that plan B isn't of value. It doesn't mean that that decision isn't of value. And it gets lost. It gets lost in the pressure of the group. So groupthink is always a threat to participatory decision making. Let's shift gears to ethics. In ethics, we are going to be concerned with misconduct, unethical behavior, and corruption. So unethical behavior is misconduct that has a broad spectrum of behavior, including mistreatment of offenders that you come across in the security process, discrimination, engaging in illegal activities like illegally searching and seizing, items, violating people's constitutional rights, perjury, evidence planting, and all other forms of corruption. Corruption goes beyond unethical behavior. and that it is done for personal gain. So there's a motive behind it. Um, it's usually abuse of authority for position or private gain. There's a lot of causes for corruption, but the big two are going to be greed, um, and just lack of character, right? Lack of character, not having a moral compass. Sometimes it can be anger. Sometimes it can be anger. That you're unhappy in the workplace. You feel that you're treated poorly in the workplace from superiors, and so subordinates justify acts of corruption by arguing to themselves that I'm not treated with any respect. I'm not paid adequately. I'm overworked. Therefore, it's okay for me to engage in fill in the blank corrupt behavior. Avoid being above the law. Rules for thee, but not for me. Um, is they never land. It never lands, right? And it's just going to erode your team's respect for you in terms of leadership and management. They're not going to respect you. It's going to create resentment and disgust. Good management can help stave off corruption. Sometimes corruption is caused by the people who work for you because of personal issues, things like addiction to gambling or addiction to substances that starts creeping into the workplace and opens up opportunities for corruption. Superiors need to know what their personnel are experiencing so that they can connect personnel with the help that they need if they are in such positions so it doesn't bleed into corrupt practices. And a good superior will handle these issues without judgment and with a helping focus. And finally, training, 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 training. Um, there's always a big question about, can we train people on ethics? If somebody doesn't have ethics, can we teach them ethics? I think certainly people most of the time learn and incorporate ethics as children. Or they don't. And for the ones who don't, it's very, very hard to incorporate that into adults once that learning process as children is already done. However, for people who don't have a strong moral dipstick, people who don't abide by ethics strongly, the training at the very least constantly reminds line personnel of what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. It puts it on everybody's radar. So even if, person A has really bad ethics, person B, C, and D who work in the same workplace do have good ethics. Everybody's trained on them. It's fresh in everybody's mind. They're going to be reminded, hey, person A is violating XYZ about what we were just trained on not to do. So it puts it on everybody's radar. And hopefully for those people that we, even if we can't teach them, we can informally police each other through training because we've all been trained, hey, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. We just got training on that. Let's just not do it. Okay, so that training puts it on everybody's radar and it gets informal policing from colleague to colleague.